Oh, they've done it. Earlier today, Legend Story Studios has announced the latest Flesh and Blood set, Outsiders. And as you can tell by this awesome artwork, it is going to be taking place in the pits, and I could not be more excited for this. This is the set that I have been waiting for so long. This is the area in the world of Wraith that I have wanted to visit more than any other area, with maybe Mysteria as a runner-up here, but I'm so stoked for the pits. Pits has been my number one want for a very, very long time, and here we see the official announcement. You can't see the whole thing here on the screen, but I'll read it out. It says, Flesh and Blood delves down into the pits, the sprawling web of underground caverns and canals, home to all manner of backstabbing and skullduggery. Outsiders releases March 24th, 2023, pre-releases in stores worldwide March 17th to the 20th. How's it going, Rogues Gallery? And today we're going to talk all about Outsiders, what it could potentially be. We're going to talk about the lore of the pits. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. There's a lot of speculation here, but a lot of it kind of isn't speculation because it's stuff that already exists in the Flesh and Blood lore. So first of all, I want to mention that we have the pre-release happening on March 17th to the 20th. And what that tells me is that if we are to have a world premiere event, and if we do have a world premiere event, I'm going, like, no matter what, I'm going to the world premiere event of Outsiders, if it exists. But if we do have one, it'll likely be a couple weeks before these dates, because that's exactly what they did for the last couple world premiere events for like Uprising and Tales of Aria. So that would be my expectation. If we have a world premiere event, then it would be a couple weeks before the pre-release here. And oh man, I'm so stoked. I'm so excited for this. So before we dive into the lore of the pits, let's take a look at the artwork that we have here that says Outsiders. First of all, I love the logo here. It looks so cool. It looks so like rough and jagged, and that's exactly what the pits should be. And we have this character as well who has this really, really cool, like post-apocalyptic, like kind of like a tank girl vibe. Good buddy Ian Kenderdine described it as tank girl. And I think that's pretty apt. Kind of like this Mad Maxy type of vibe. What's interesting is that like she's holding like a gas canister or something like that. She's definitely got something that she's smoking, and definitely has like this kind of like punk vibe. I like her backpack that has these like bone tube pipe things coming out of it. I don't know. It's really cool, and I dig the overall vibe. And speaking of the vibe, by the way, just because I'm so excited for this set, I got the lighting here to make me look as sinister as possible, because we are entering the pits, and it's all about skullduggery, assassinations, and mutants down in the pits. So we got a lot of lore to talk about here. We're also going to talk about what classes I expect to be in this set. I think there are a couple slam dunks, and there's a lot of speculation here, but I think there's some really interesting stuff to talk about. So on the official Flesh and Blood website, if you go to the section marked as Heroes, you can go down to the World of Wraith, and here is the lore for every single region in Wraith. Like, if you want to know more about the Savage Lands or Mysteria, here you go. But here we're going to be talking about metrics, and more importantly, the pits. So I want to talk about metrics first, just a little bit. So metrics is a city, well, it's a city of wonder here. It's a city of technology, of, I don't know, it's like a city of advancement, but there's also kind of like this seedy underside to it. But on top of all of that, we have the pits, which is located directly underneath metrics. That's right, the pits is basically a giant cavern or system of caves underneath metrics where all of the dregs of society live, right? So you have like people living the high life up in metrics, and then you have the low life down in the pits. And metrics is very important for talking about the pits, because it's kind of like the, I don't want to say the antithesis or like the reflection, but similar, right? It's kind of like the opposite of the pits. So we have metrics. It's important. I also want to note that I have a feeling that we will not be getting a pits and metric set. I have a feeling that Outsiders, based on the name and what they've said so far, that Outsiders is going to be only pits. And I'm actually really, really excited for that. I hope it's only pits, right? Because it gives it more time to expand and explore the pits rather than having to share it with another region. I feel that that's one of Monarch's greatest failings is, lore-wise, is that they weren't able to really expand upon Solana or the monastery all that much because it was like shared between the two, and then also you had like this war going on as well. So you never really got a good feel of like Solana or of the monastery. You got a little bit of a feel of the monastery, I think, because they were the aggressors, right? So you have more of them than Solana. But still, I'm glad that it looks like there's only going to be the pits here. And then hopefully, my fingers crossed, the following set will be a metric set. So we'll have Outsiders, and then we'll have like a metric set followed up afterwards. Maybe an expansion set, maybe another draft set. We don't know. But we do know that Outsiders is a draft set. And we know this because it's been mentioned before, but we also know this because Flesh and Blood has a release schedule currently of draft set and expansion set, and the previous set, Dynasty, was an expansion set, so we can assume and extrapolate that this set is going to be a draft set. And not only that, we have a little bit of, you can call it maybe like a leak, or I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what you want to call it, but folks who are able to order Dragon Shield sleeves from distribution can see that there are 4 upcoming hero sleeves that you can purchase from Dragon Shield. And when Uprising released, they had 3 hero sleeves to purchase, right? Coinciding with the heroes from Uprising. So it's safe to assume that Outsiders will have 4 heroes. Now, we don't really know what those heroes are. We don't know if they're going to be new heroes, returning heroes. We don't know anything about them, but we do have some information that there are 4 new hero sleeves available for people to order from distribution. So it's very likely there's going to be 4 new heroes in this set. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what they could potentially be. I have some theories. Oh boy, do I have some theories. But let's get into some pits lore. And I've already prepared some images that could help us as we talk about the pits, because there is a lot of stuff about the pits already, but we haven't fully explored the environment yet. And I'm so stoked. So, pits, the underworld. Like I said, pits are they're located underneath the city of Metrix. It says the pits are a series of massive chasms that lie beneath the city of Metrix. Basically, these pits and caverns and tunnels were made by centuries of water and all that kind of stuff. And now folks live there. The waters are poisoned from the city of Metrix, as well as through mining excavations, and the waters are now black. They're colored black. It's very, very toxic and poisonous down in the pits. It's an area of smugglers, thieves, assassins, basically folks who are just trying to do anything they can to get some coin. It says the people are hardened, cynical, and weary, with sunken eyes and skeletal figures. Makeshift lanterns light the paths to their ramshackle shelters, built from the waste that falls from above. From a scavenger to hardened criminal, every last resident of the pits will do whatever it is necessary to survive. Whatever is necessary. I added a little bit more. So here we have the Maw. So the Maw is really interesting. The Maw is basically like the gateway to the pits. It's like this giant, massive sinkhole. It was like a strip mine that they used to get from the pits to Metrix and Metrix to the pits. So I expect the Maw to be featured at least somewhere in Outsiders, right? Because it's like the connection to Metrix. It'll be a nice way to juxtapose the city of Metrix with the pits, and because of that, I do expect to see some form of the Maw. And there are certain gangs that actually have territory in certain places of the pits, and there's one gang in particular that kind of has control of the Maw. We also have some skullduggery. Now these are kind of the professions that you can find in the pits, and I expect some of these to appear as classes in Outsiders, and well, we'll talk about the reasons why. So it says there are no laws, no enforcers, and no protection from the criminal underworld in the pits. Despite being several steps removed from the city above, the dubious connection between the two regions ensures that talics continue to be used as a form of currency, even in the pits. So they use the same form of currency. While the midtown markets may provide all different kinds of wonders for sale, in the pits you can find anything for the right price. Even, maybe black market tech, like the Black Tech Whisperers, which are these like experimental piece of technology from Metrics. Yeah, so let's get into this a little bit. So we have Smuggler. It's kind of what you would expect, right? We have people smuggling stuff either from the pits to Metrics or from Metrics to the pits, either experimental tech, blacklisted items, drugs, whatever, right? So we have smugglers. It's kind of like you would expect that here. We also have mercenaries. There are a ton of mercenaries in the pits. In fact, Blackjack's Tavern and the Blackjack Mercenary Company is the largest in all of Wraith. So lots and lots of, or they call them mercenary company, mercenary corporation. They're a corporation. They're a fine, upstanding business. They do actually run their business very, very well. And we'll talk about the Blackjack's Mercenary Corporation because they're a very, very large part of the pits. And they kind of oversee or run Blackjack's Tavern, which is also another really, really big part of the pits. We also have assassins. Oh yes, let's go. It says, while both assassins and mercenaries can be hired to kill, assassins are specialists, having honed their skills to a fine edge. They're quick, quiet, and discreet, eliminating their target with deadly efficiency, often disguising the assassination to avoid rousing suspicion. Assassins are most often hired by citizens of Metrics, sent to dispatch an enemy or opponent without drawing the attention of the Iron Assembly, which are kind of like one of the governing bodies of the city of Metrics. So I fully expect to see Assassin in this set, and it just makes sense from a design standpoint. If I was a game developer or designer, and I just released a set that kind of hinted at and introduced a brand new class with maybe like a little bit of support, I think it would make a lot of sense to fully flesh out that class in the following set, especially if it's going to be a fully fledged draftable set. So I think Assassin is a slam dunk. Whether or not that Assassin character is from the Spider, we don't know. We'll talk about that as we go on, because the Spider is another very interesting part of the pits. But I do fully expect to see Assassin in this set. Maybe not Arachne, maybe not even a member of the Spider, but I think it makes a lot of sense from a design standpoint. So yes, I do fully expect to see Assassin here. We also have information traders and information brokers. I mean, if you're selling black market stuff, information is very, very key and pivotal, so this also makes a lot of sense. It says they are usually incredibly private and reclusive. We'll probably see some sort of card alluding to this. I imagine we'll see cards alluding to all of this stuff, by the way. Smuggling, mercenaries, information trading, obviously assassins. And then here's another kind of, maybe it's not a hot take, maybe it's not a hot take, but I expect to see alchemists in this set because it makes so much sense for a couple of reasons. So let's read this here. It says, apothecaries are individuals with some amount of training in alchemy and potion making, selling their wares to the denizens of the pits, which range from healing tonics to poultices to poisons and drugs. Ill from the mining fumes and lack of sunlight, weak to disease and infection, the citizens of the pits have little choice but to rely on the work of apothecaries. So the apothecaries are very important to the ecosystem here. However questionable their intentions might be. It's all about the money, man. It's all about the money. Apothecaries are, of course, not the only ones to be using the people of pits for their experiments. It is not uncommon for the scientists and doctors of Metrics to seek test subjects, and the pits provides an endless supply free of charge. Now, I can already see a lot of stuff here. Maybe one of the reasons why Arachne has that giant hump is that they were a test experiment from Metrics, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the Spider, because, well, we'll just talk about that when the time comes. But I really do think there's a possibility that we see Alchemist here in Outsiders, because think about it, right? If they wanted to introduce two new classes, right, Assassin and Alchemist, wouldn't it make sense for them to put one of those classes in a previous set like Dynasty, kind of soft launching the class so that when they release Outsiders, the draftable set, you don't have two brand new classes. You have one class that was recently introduced, right, that is getting support, and then one brand new class. I don't know, that just makes a lot of design sense to me. I don't know. They could be doing that. They could be doing something else, but Alchemy and Alchemist makes a ton of sense, and you know, it fits in with the world, fits in with the lore, and it also is like a very, very important key part of the pits. So that's my take. I really think we'll see Assassin. I really think we'll see Alchemist, And then I really also think we'll see Ranger. And I think we'll see Ranger because of something that James White said to Az from Go Again Gaming at the Flesh and Blood World Championships. And he said, keep the faith. Azalea in 2023 is going to be the business. Now, not exactly in that order, but he said Azalea is going to be the business next year. And why would Azalea be the business? Well, if they had a set fully dedicated to Ranger. So, yeah, that's kind of my assumption here. We can also see support in like a future set, obviously, or in another expansion set or something like that. But I think we're going to see some really, really strong Ranger support here in Outsiders. And it's a perfect set. The name is perfect too, right? What class is more of an outsider in Flesh and Blood than like Ranger and Azalea, right? Now you could say like Levier or something like that, but come on, let's get real. Like Azalea is the real outsider in Flesh and Blood. So it just makes sense. It just really makes sense to me. So those are the three classes that I expect that I think are kind of slam dunks. Ranger, Assassin, and Alchemist. And then the fourth one, it could be a lot of things. I've had friends speculate that it could be Merchant, maybe a young Merchant, with the other three being able to be adult versions, and the young version is like only for draft, right? That could be really cool. That could be really interesting. We don't have our third Merchant, right? We have a Copper Merchant, Kavdane. We have our Silver Merchant, Genus, but we don't have a Gold Merchant yet. So, I don't know. I think it could make sense. And we also already have a Merchant from the pits. We have Kavdane, but I think it's like, we could also see something like Warrior, right? We could see something like a character that's a mercenary, or a character that's like a thug. And speaking of thugs, we have the various gangs. So there's a lot of gangs in the pits. The gangs are basically, the pits are basically run by gangs. It says the pits dominate, or the gangs of the pits dominate the underworld, taking control of entire tunnel networks, or in some cases, areas of the Maw itself. So, for example, we have the Freak Show. And the Freak Show basically use dregs, which are these like mutant monsters, basically, on chains. They like chain them up to protect their territory, which is very interesting. So it says Freak Show territory is found in much deeper areas of the pits, comprising multiple abandoned mine shafts. What's really interesting about this, like chaining up the dregs, is we actually have a piece of artwork with dregs chained up used by Azalea. So here is the art for Sick'em Shot. And here we see Azalea, or a character we can assume to be Azalea. Looks pretty close to Azalea. And down here we see the chained up dregs. So these are dregs. We'll talk about dregs more, but they're basically like people that have been submitted to so much toxin and poison that they have mutated into these horrible monsters. They're basically like ghouls from Fallout. It's really, really cool. So, yeah, I don't know if that means that Azalea is a member of the Freak Show, or if she's just kind of like taking their tactics, or maybe it's like a common tactic down in the pits, but it's something to think about. We also have the Torched, which are basically like a gang of pyromaniacs. They have like, you know, fire traps and flamethrowers and stuff. We have the Numbskulls, which are, they love bones. We have the Jawbreakers, who love explosives, probably getting their explosives up from metrics. And then we have the Blockheads, which use like, they're like the big brutes, but not actual brutes, because brutes is a term in Flesh and Blood. But they're like the big thugs, the goons that have like hammers and that kind of stuff. So, I don't know, we could see something in before someone says Guardian. I don't, maybe we could get a Guardian, but I don't think so. Maybe a Warrior or something. A Warrior from one of these. Maybe even like a Wizard doing Pyromancy. We just had a Wizard, so maybe not a Wizard. But in any case, there's a lot of stuff to think about here. We also have Blackjack's Mercenary Group. So Blackjack's Mercenary Group is a huge part of the lore of the pits. They are the like the most well-known area throughout the pits. They are the biggest mercenary organization in all of Wraith. And it says, unlike other groups, Blackjacks do not hire mercenaries themselves. Instead, they act as an intermediary. Once they receive a contract, it's posted on a notice board for all to see. Anyone who wishes to take the contract speaks to the tavern's handler, Greenbird, for further details. Now, Greenbird is a very key character as well. I would be surprised if we didn't see some cards referencing Greenbird. They basically own Blackjack's Tavern and the Blackjack Mercenary Group. The first to complete it and return with proof is paid in full. Blackjacks has a unique system for identifying the skill and talents of its mercenaries. Each mercenary who accepts a contract is given a card identifying their level of skill within the organization. Oh, that's so cool. I want to see some of these cards, like as actual cards. Each consecutive card rank allows its owners more perks within the tavern, with the most elite mercenaries possessing one-of-a-kind individual cards. Stealing cards from other mercenaries is allowed if you can manage to pull it off. So we already talked about Greenbird here. Greenbird basically runs the tavern and runs the mercenary organization. They run it very, very well. And, you know, in order to keep all these goons, thugs, assassins, and whatnot in line, Greenbird has to be kind of a pretty tough person. They maintain their power through intel, using both respect and fear to keep the tavern under his thumb. We also have calling cards. So calling cards are super cool. It's something that we can see here in 3 of a kind. I do believe these are calling cards, as well as Red in the Ledger, Azalea holding up one of these calling cards. And so the calling cards, I'm going to close the metrics tab. The calling cards are, well, actually, no, these are, I'm sorry, these are marks. I do believe these are marks. I think there's technically still calling cards, but these are marks. There are other types of calling cards as well. So there are pins and stacks. If you have a pin calling card, that means you are one of the elite 22 mercenaries with a unique card. So it says at the top of the hierarchy are the pins, 22 mercenaries possessing unique cards representing their position within Blackjacks. So I would very much expect, if we do not see Azalea, I would very much expect to see another, or maybe even if we do see Azalea, another mercenary that's one of the 22 pins. So that's another one of my expectations here, or maybe like you know, theories, is that we'll see one of the 22 pins in the set, which would be awesome, especially if they're one of the heroes. Then we have the stacks. Everyone else is a stack, right? There are different kinds of stacks. So you have jacks, batters, coppers, and cups, which are different suits, basically. And anyone completing a contract for the first time, you get an ace of one of the stacks, and then you can move up the rank as you complete more contracts, basically. Which is super cool. I just love all this stuff. And this, like I said, I think are marks here. So marks are contract cards that are given to mercenaries when they take up a contract. They act as an indicator of the difficulty or complexity of a job and a way to keep track of mercenaries working on the same contract. They're required in order to turn in a contract and receive the reward. No one knows how many variants of marks exist, with each contract assigned an archetypical card to represent that job. I believe these are marks here. These are marks, and I believe Azalea is also holding up the mark here in this artwork. I expect to see this kind of stuff too. Oh, this is so cool. They can do so much cool stuff with this card system, because it's a card game. Like Flesh and Blood is a card game, so being able to use these in-world cards in the card game would be awesome. So that's going to be super, super cool if they do something like that. And even if they don't, I do expect to see some references to pins, stacks, and marks, all the calling cards. Super cool. Oh, I'm so stoked for it. So next up is the Spider, which is the order of assassins that Arachne belongs to. And they are basically like a super secret organization that almost no one knows about. They say they operate in total secrecy. Their service is available only to those who know of its existence. Its assassins are raised from youth, taken from the streets and from orphanages. Their skills honed to forge them into the ultimate weapon. This is what Arachne was. I think we can see them, you know, in their youth, in their young artwork, and I think that they got that lump from, this is once again speculation, but it would be cool, or make a lot of sense, that they got that big shoulder thing from being experimented on by those up in metrics, right? And then they pulled them, you know, they experimented on the kid, dumped him in an orphanage or something like that, and then the Spider picked him up. That's just some headcanon, but it seems like it could be likely. And it says, while there are rumors speculating which deaths they may have been involved in, maybe the deaths of some emperor of a far-off kingdom, no assassination carried out by a spider has ever been witnessed or proven, which makes me wonder what's going to happen to Dromai. If you know the lore, she did catch a glimpse of Arachne before they dashed off. So, yeah, curious to know what's going to happen of good old Dromai here. We also have L'Apocalypta, which I think is another huge part of the pits, and I think Apocalypta is actually one of the things that's going to tie the pits into the overall narrative of Flesh and Blood. So L'Apocalypta is a cult. Basically, it's like an apocalypse cult that's trying to prepare the world for the oncoming apocalypse. So it says, a mysterious cult found within the depths of the pits. Members of Apocalypta can be found throughout Wraith. Apocalypta believes that the end times are coming, an event which will awaken the latent powers of Wraith and split the world asunder, throwing all into chaos and destroying humanity in the process. Now, this is something that we've seen in other sets that other people are expecting as well. In Tales of Aria, they believe that the Old Ones are waking up. In Monarch, Chain believes that the Aesir and the Old Ones are coming and they're going to destroy the world. And they all might be like the same thing. The Emperor from Dynasty heard whispers of a slumbering Aesir, right? That, like, underneath the mountain, underneath Mount Volcor. So I think that all of this stuff kind of like ties together, and this like apocalypse cult is going to be really big for the story of Flesh and Blood. It says they believe they are helping to prepare humanity for their oncoming apocalypse by creating small amounts of the chaos that humans will face. Sounds like Chain, doesn't it? Thus training them for what is to come. Wars, disease outbreaks, man-made disasters, revolutions, and full-scale invasions, many of the darkest events in Wraith's history can be attributed to Apocalypta. Despite their influence, the suffering they have caused, the cult remains incredibly secretive, and very few are aware of its existence. It makes me wonder if Chain is actually a member of L'Apocalypta. Like, also, you know, one of the head members of the monastery, but I have a feeling that Chain might have ties to this cult as well, because that's exactly what he's doing. We also have the Dregs, and so we talked about the Dregs already. Where are they? This one. These are the Dregs. We can see the Dregs here. And the Dregs are basically mutants, like I said. It says the pits are plagued by toxic sludge and chemical runoff from the city above. It runs through the rivers, seeping into the soil and working its way through the underground. While every denizen of the pits is exposed to the toxic environments on a daily basis, some are unfortunate enough to be exposed to a larger dose. The collapsed tunnel, a mining accident, steam tech failure, or simple human error can cause all kinds of dangerous chemicals to overflow into the pits, damning everyone they touch to the same dark fate. Dregs are the result of these accidents. Once human, they have mutated beyond recognition, irreparably damaged and transformed into something that barely resembles their former selves. They are mindless, soulless creatures who operate on the sole purpose of survival, attacking anything in their vicinity and eating anything in order to stay alive. And here we have the Dregs. So yeah, I expect the Dregs to feature prominently as well in the set. They're very interesting. I wonder if we'll see like a cognizant Dreg. You know, like in Fallout we have ghouls, like feral ghouls, but we have a couple, you know, ghouls as well who, you know, maintain their humanity. I wonder if we'll ever see that with Dregs. I think that could be like an interesting story kind of beat to explore. But in any case, this set's going to be awesome. There's so much lore in Flesh and Blood already that you can dive into. So anytime a new set comes out, you can like check out all of the pre-established lore and kind of get an idea what we're going to expect. It's also good to expect the unexpected. LSS loves doing that, and they love throwing curveballs, so there's probably going to be some crazy stuff in the set as well. But I really do think we'll see something akin to the line of Assassin, Ranger, Alchemist, and then maybe something else. Maybe like a warrior, if they're like a member of one of the mercenary groups, like maybe one of the big hammer-wielding thugs or something. Or maybe even like one of the pyromancer mercenary groups, right? Either way, I think it's going to be exciting. Also, I want to mention right now, I don't think you can assume that the character in the splash art here is a hero. Like, it could literally just be a card, an attack action. It could be anything. So, like, I don't think it's safe to assume that this is a hero. Could be a hero. And if they're a hero, I mean, who knows what they could be, right? But in any case, I don't think it's safe to assume that. I'm so stoked for it. I'm so stoked for it. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. And you know what? While you're down there, like, comment, and subscribe. I know I already said comment, but comment again. Like, comment, and subscribe. Oh, man. I like giving people keywords. So if you are watching this far into this video, which is like a half hour long already, if you're watching this far into the video, the keyword is going to be, oh, let's make it one of the cards. Pins. Yeah, the keyword is going to be, let me pass it, is going to be pins. So if you watch this far, type pins so we know you're one of Blackjack's faithful here. So thanks so much for watching. Like I said, I'm very curious to know everyone's thoughts. It's a pit set. Dude, it's our time. I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked. Oh, man. So, there's a lot to think about. It's going to be an exciting year next year for Flesh and Blood, kicking it off with a pit set. Outsiders, March 24th. Let's go. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.